And we're live. Welcome back to the Enolve podcast, where we talk about how to improve the world. Today, we're going to approach things from two seemingly opposing ends of the spectrum. We're here with Lynn Catalano. She is a attorney who spent a lot of time in organizational leadership, but now she is talking about identifying toxic relationships and how to read the room. And Lynn, you also have a book published, right? That's titled Wrecking Ball Relationships.
Yes, it's not published yet. It's forthcoming. It's coming out this
Oh,
year.
about to launch.
Yes.
Okay. So tell
Yes.
us a little bit about that. Does somebody go from being a attorney, so in the legal field, kind of seems like a logical thing, then pivoting all the way over to the relationship field and through business? Tell us, what's that process been?
Well, I think that, in life, we have a lot of experiences, and some of them are really great and some of them are not. But all of them we learn things from. So I was lucky enough to have 3 different toxic bosses. And I tell you lucky because I learned so much, and I really learned how to navigate that world and how to stay a valued employee in those positions. So I really want to share that with people. I feel, unfortunately, there's a lot of toxic bosses out there, and we all have to figure out a way to deal with that and cope and stay in those positions sometimes.
And yeah, really interesting, because you also label that toxic relationships and toxicity also with narcissism, right?
Yes. So really, that's how narcissists manifest in a workplace. They are toxic bosses. They're really interchangeable when you sit down and analyze the people in those positions. They possess all the characteristics of a narcissist. For me, my journey really was about exploring my own experiences with a narcissistic parent. And as a result, that's how this book came about, was really on my own journey. But I didn't want it to be a memoir. I wanted it to be something that I was looking for, that was an easy guide to answers as to what was happening. I had no idea when I was experiencing this who my parent was and what was going on. I was lost, I was confused, and I really just wanted someone to say, oh, do they do A, B, and C? Oh, then you have a narcissist, and this is how you handle it, and this is how you go about it. Because I found myself doing the same thing and trying to solve the problem in a way that made sense to me, but it doesn't make any sense to a narcissist. So that's the wisdom I'd like to share in my book, in Wrecking Ball Relationships. I explore each of those different types of relationships, both through my own story and through many others that were really willing and ready and able to share those stories with me.
That does sound like a really helpful guide and a unique positioning as well. Because in that field, I feel like there's especially a lot of people um, giving advice perhaps on how to cut out a narcissist from your life or something like that, right?
Right.
But especially if you're talking about, well, you also need to learn kind of how to cope with it, right? That does sound valuable. So
Yeah.
how does somebody know that they need to read your book? I mean, we're kind of talking about these abstract level concepts here: toxic relationship, narcissistic boss. What does that mean? What does that look like? If I am in that situation, how do I know that that's the correct label to put on these things?
So that's a great question. So narcissists present with pretty standard characteristics. They not only like for the situation to revolve around them and for them to be the most important person in the room, but they need to have a sense of entitlement. They need to be a very important person. They need to have admiration. They need to have respect and recognition. And if any of those things don't happen, they have a very standard response. All those things that I mentioned are considered narcissistic supply. That's how they get their inflated ego, and that's how they thrive on all those things. But when they don't have them, they go into a rage. Sometimes it's been termed a narcissistic rage storm, and you can see it happening. Now that I've studied so much and learned so much and observed so many different narcissists in different settings, I can see it happening. It's like a storm coming on the horizon, and you can see the person, they get quiet, they get uncomfortable. Sometimes they lash out verbally, sometimes they write terrible texts and emails, sometimes they leave you a terrible message. Sometimes it comes in the form of a tweet, like our former US President Donald Trump. He liked to tweet really terrible, nasty things. Well, that was when he didn't get what he wanted, and he went into a rage. So once you know the signs, it's so clear. You can see it happening right in front of you.
Interesting, interesting. I tell you what, as I'm listening to you, and you know, we talked about, well, how does somebody know that they need your book? As you're describing that, though, I'm reflecting on myself, and I mean, I go through times in my life where there's like, I have certain expectations, but then the expectations, they're not met. Now, of course, I'm not trying to leash out on anybody, but that's what always fascinates me about this topic of narcissism and toxic relationships, right? How do you know which side of the table you're on?
Right.
You know, like I mean, what's the experience like from both sides? And especially if you talk about coping strategies, right? A lot of people always recommend, oh, cut out these people from your life. But then if you continue to be such an antisocial person to not interact with anybody who hurts your own ego, well, then you're being the narcissist, right?
Right.
So
right.
That, to me, that's a fascinating dilemma. Is there any insights you can shed on that?
Well, you know, there's some situations when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, when it's a romantic relationship, I don't recommend any coping skills for that. I really think that the best thing for both people, specifically the non-narcissist, is to leave that relationship. However, you need coping skills. If you're divorcing a narcissist and you share children with them, you're going to have to be in each other's lives, you know, forever, right? So you're going to need some coping in that situation. But for me, my narcissist is a parent. I just could not just cut that person out of my life. And that was a choice. When it's a boss, and for whatever reasons, you have to stay in that position, whether it's good childcare, good insurance, good benefits, good, you know, commuting, whatever the reason is, you need to stay in that job. You have to figure out a way to coexist peacefully and make sure that you have less stress on yourself. So that's really what I'm trying to shed light on, are some strategies for you to take away from that and to be able to exist with a lower level of stress.
That makes perfect sense. That sounds really insightful and plausible. So, but you're saying the book is about to be published, so it's not out yet.
Yeah, correct.
So how can we be first in line? What's the process there?
Well, please follow me on Instagram. I'm Lynn Catalano Speaks, Facebook, Lynn Catalano Speaks, and my website is www.lynncatalano.com. So please follow me and like my posts, and stay tuned, and you'll be the first one to know when the book comes out.
Awesome. Now on your Instagram and your social media channels, can we expect to see some insights and some specific coping strategies?
Absolutely.
Nice. Do you mind sharing one specific one with us right now? I feel like we've talked about the topic in very abstract terms, but can you give us like a tangible thing that I can do right now if I'm in that situation? What's something that I can do right now?
So the best thing for you to do is to really change your approach. And it took me years to figure this out. But, you know, expecting a different result from the same process every time insanity. I mean, it's going to be the same result every time. So me doing the same thing every time, I had to change that. I had to change my whole perspective and take a step back and learn their limitations. So I think that when you see it from a different perspective, you're able to understand some of what they're going through. Because don't forget, narcissism is a mental illness. It's not just a loose term that we like to use for people that are very self-involved. That's not narcissism. Narcissism is truly an illness. And most of the time they are completely unaware of what they are suffering from. It's the people around them that are truly suffering. So once I changed my perspective and I approached the situation differently, it was much better for me. So I would strongly recommend, once you know the signs and once you can see what they're going through and how they look at things, you can understand that much better.
Interesting. So rather than to be offensive or defensive to the situation and be like, I don't like it, approach it from a place of empathy and understanding, it sounds like, and maybe even compassion, huh?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. We, especially with enolve, we talk a lot about the different perspectives as well, and how, the same problem from different perspective takes on a different shape. And even though people can agree on a problem, because of their different perspectives, and the perspective is really informed by their goals in our framework, due to that differing perspective, arguments can ensue over the same problem. But then, of course, once we have become more aware, and we've been able to separate these things out, just like you seem to give us insight with your book, where you can actually understand the dynamics that underlie the situation and the conflict, then it really helps us to be more peaceful about the situation, right?
Yes. And that's what we all want, peace. We want peace of mind. So that's, if that's how you have to get it, then you have to look at it differently.
Amazing. Well, I really look forward to the release of your book, Lynn.
Thank
and
you.
we'll be sure to post your Instagram in the description below so people can follow and get those insights and be first in line to get the book when it comes out.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing your insights, and thanks for helping people to be peaceful in their difficult situations in life.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Yes.
Take care.
Take care.